of November. If I could please ask everyone to stand for our opening karakia.
Te taua mai ronga, te taua mai raro, te taua mai roto, te taua mai waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, hone hui e, tai ki.
Just a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed on our council Facebook page, and a very warm welcome to everybody, including our guests who will be talking to us very soon in the public forum. Firstly, just to take care of some of our procedural issues. Firstly, we have apologies from Councillor Simpson. If I could have him over, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And Councillor Crown. Oh, and Councillor Crown. Apologies for that. Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Right, so first up we do have our public forum with Biodiversity Hawke's Bay here to present to us today. So welcome to Debbie and Bruce. I will hand across to you, and we're looking forward to seeing your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Listen, I know we've got the minimum time, so I'll be brief. My name is Bruce Wills. I chair the Biodiversity Hawke's Bay. Debbie beside me is a general manager. Belinda and Louisa are part of our team. So simply put, we're here to seek your support. I was sitting in the same chair a month or so ago with HBRC. They will be our main supporters, but I guess we're a collaborative community-led organisation, and we're very keen to have all territorial authorities in Hawke's Bay support Biodiversity Hawke's Bay. So the quick rundown is Debbie's just going to run through who we are, what we do, and what we're here for, and then I'll just open for any questions that you may have. So Debbie, all yours.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk, very much appreciated. All about the Hawke's Bay Biodiversity Strategy, which I'm sure that a number of you know us, and if you don't, then hopefully I can tell you a little bit more in the next kind of 5 minutes or so. I think the thing I like about the Hawke's Bay Biodiversity Strategy is it was actually developed by the community with the councils, tangata whenua, non-governmental organisations. A lot of other councils have actually just had someone sitting behind their desk developing their strategy. So I think this is what's really great about the Hawke's Bay Biodiversity Strategy. And out of that created a trust and an incorporated society, so a membership-based organisation, the complexities of which I won't go into right now. But basically how we work is we're all about the community. We're a community-based organisation with 3 part-time contractors. Myself as General Manager, Dr Belinda Slate as our Community Facilitator, and Louisa Ganaway as our Administration Manager. And basically we work to actually try and implement and honour the vision of this biodiversity strategy. So our work is all about the strategy and biodiversity, and we don't step outside of that biodiversity gambit. We're the network of networks, and we see our role as kind of basically supporting the community, enabling them to do the work in their own spaces. So we bring value in a number of different ways, and basically I think supporting groups to do the doing. I have to say Napier City Council has been a great supporter. One of the things that's been an excellent collaboration is our partnership with the National Aquarium of New Zealand for the Beautiful Bay in May month, which has had great feedback over the last couple of years. And we've already started working and planning the next things that actually come through. So we provide support in a number of different ways. It could be that Belinda helps somebody scope the project or helps them do a funding bid, through to Louisa managing their funds for them if they don't have their own bank accounts. The other thing we've done is we've recently launched a project portal, and that's a way to try and bring all the biodiversity projects into one place so people can see what's actually happening in the whole region. So it's through our biodiversity website, and so go to the projects tab, you'll see a number of different projects that are sitting there. And just to highlight a few, which are very much Napier based because that's who we're talking to, kind of Save the Doctorals, a new group, and Jason Tickner has been a great part of actually supporting this project, and Belinda was in right from the start. There's 2 groups, 2 main areas, Clive and Bayview, and the reason we split them is because this portal also enables volunteers to actually sign up as a volunteer and actually lend their skills to what they've actually got and map to somewhere where they want to go and volunteer. And so it could be that someone's prepared to go to Clive but not Bayview, and vice versa. And you'll see that you can actually say what resources are actually required, the project actually requires, and so people can actually match and see what they actually need. The thing about Save the Doctorals as well is they were successful in getting funding from PAMPAC Environment Fund this year, but they're a new organisation, they're not incorporated, don't have bank accounts. So we hold their funds for them and we pay their invoices and give them project reporting and financial reporting so that they can get on and just do the doing without bothering with all that red tape. The other great project that Belinda's had a hand in, you'll hear her name quite often when it comes up to our work, is Cross Country Drain. And Belinda's working with Bupa and the Piramai Residents Association resulted in an initial 3-year agreement for planting, and the hope is that that actually gets extended beyond. And so it's a great community project that's really engaged and what a difference it's made to the whole space. Then there's one that's very close because this area is actually a significant natural area that Napier has identified, Te Taha, otherwise colloquially known as the Gap in West Shore. And this is great for us too. This is the only project that Biodiversity at Hawke's Bay actually leads itself, and that dates way back to pre-me, the likes of Kay Griffiths, Samari Taylor, who saw 4 very precious plants growing naturally there under the Cotoneaster and other bigweeds and said we need to save these species. It includes the Pimelia zenica, which is nationally vulnerable. And so in partnership with Te Tai Whenua o Te Whanganui Aotearoa and with sponsorship from the Hawke's Bay Airport and with the support of the Napier Hastings Councils, who are both landowners, we've kind of started work on this site. We've got a number of community groups engaged as well to help us because it's a big site. That includes the Residents Association, Napier Forest and Bird, and the Ahuriri Sunrise Rotary Club. And I have to say that today, as I drove here, Kay and the Tai Whenua team are there trying to remove the last of the Cotoneasters. And then we have Patsy Glouspole and her team coming in later this afternoon to mulch it all so that we don't have to worry about that waste. So it's a great project that involves many. And you'll see that on that, there's an upcoming event coming place. If any of you want to weed on a Saturday morning, the first Saturday of each month, there's a public community weeding session there. But what it does do, the portal site also gives a chance for everybody to lodge their events and show everybody what upcoming events are happening, whereabouts in the region and on what projects, and what those projects are actually seeking by way of support. So that's a very quick rundown of what we're doing. As Bruce said, we're now looking basically to secure our financial future. It's actually very hard to find operational funding where you're not actually doing the projects yourself. It's much easier to get project funding. And in actual fact, what was really good this week is that I was successful in getting $12,000 out of the WWF Tyndall Foundation Fund for Te Taha. So we've got even more money to put into that project. Most of it we are looking to from the Regional Council. They have the main statutory responsibility for biodiversity. However, the National Policy Statement for Indigenous Biodiversity that has recently been adopted does give some obligations down to the territorial authorities, and we're hoping that Biodiversity Hawke's Bay is in a position to actually help implement that as a region with the other councils. So essentially, we're committed to continuing to find additional funds, but we would also value your support, not only as you have done in-kind support, which with so many of your staff, which has been fantastic, but any assistance you can give us for operational funding would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Stevie. That was a quick and very fulsome summary. So, thank you. Great. So listen, in summary, biodiversity, as we all know, critical for every one of us. We are Hawke's Bay Biodiversity. We've got the backing of the community. We've got a great team of volunteers in a governance role looking after the team, and then obviously our 3 contractors here. As Stevie mentioned, Hawke's Bay Regional Council are strong supporters. But we have a view that all territorial authorities in Hawke's Bay should and need to be involved with Biodiversity Hawke's Bay. This is a collaborative community effort, and as you saw in the examples here, lots and lots of Napier examples, as there are Hastings and Central Hawke's Bay and the like. So listen, I'll stop there and open for any questions that you may have. The difficult ones I'll give to Debbie, but anything straightforward I'm sure I can handle myself. So any questions, please?
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Bowe.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things I want to comment on. One is that Keep Napier Beautiful has funds available. It's not a heck of a lot, but funds between $500 and $1,000 for projects that help beautify Napier. So I think some of your projects, it's not a lot, but it might help. And the other thing I wanted to mention, you talked about the Dotterel groups being separate. What is it? The Hastings, but that's the Hastings District Council and the Napier District Council. It's Napier City Council. The Bayview group actually made
submissions to us on our dog bylaw, which were very relevant to protecting those. So there's things in our council timetable as well that those groups can plug into if they're aware of it, that will help, protect the flora and fauna that, is obviously your kaupapa.
I think I'd just like to say something towards that is I think that awareness is the piece there. Many people don't know about how councils work and timeframes and processes. Also, many people I've noticed are really reticent about contacting their councils. Perhaps they're a bit scared of them. On the other hand, they don't necessarily know who to contact, who to speak to about particular things. So, if anything, the main thing I've done with that Dotterels group was to make it less scary to actually interact with the councils. In particular, Jason Tickner has been wonderful. I think that group has achieved so many things because of Napier City Council's involvement in there. So
Relationship.
Yeah, and so from biodiversity Hawke's Bay's point of view, our role in that has really been to be able to connect up the different pieces to really enable that movement forward and some really great work to be done there. Yeah. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Deputy Brosnan.
Oh, thank you, through you, Your Worship. I just wanted to really congratulate you on the work that you've been doing in Ahuriri. I think it was fabulous to see the quick rundown. Thank you, Debbie, and your team. I know we worked closely together over a number of things, but it was great to really see some of that wording you used around sort of enabling the community to do what they do and getting rid of the red tape and just sort of empowering people to get moving and doing the things that they like to do on the ground, and that in turn makes such a big difference, like the projects you've highlighted. So just a big congratulations from me. We know at Council that we have a big work program in front of us around our Indigenous biodiversity and our and the work we're doing in our district plans around significant natural areas and things like that. And so I just really encourage you to keep working with us, and in turn, of course, we love to work with you. So thank you so much for highlighting what you've done today.
Thank you.
Councillor McGrath.
Yes, just through the chair. A few years ago, I sat in on a workshop. I think it was a professor or someone had come down from Waikato, and they were talking about percentage of biodiversity within the cityscape there and growing it. Have we done a measure in Napier, and are we winning the battle? Are we going forwards or putting more concrete in than trees?
Yeah,
Where do we sit?
So that was Professor Bruce Clarkson from the University of Waikato. So he leads a major research program, People, Cities and Nature, which was funded with the second tranche of funding last year. I think that from memory, it was a few years ago, as you've indicated, they did do a bit of an idea of, so 10% is that kind of figure that we're talking about for getting those real ecosystem services that start making real measurable differences for the environment. The policy coverage.
The NPS does actually specify 10%.
Yeah.
It says council should work towards a 10% coverage. And Napier was actually one of the first to actually do a plan using Professor Clarkson. They actually did identify your significant natural areas, which is why we know that Te Taha is actually one which I think actually helped us secure WWF funding as well, as that kind of comes through. So that is that game. And of course, we're well aware that Napier struggles because you don't have a large rural area to actually try and grow a lot of SNA kind of areas.
Yeah. So just going back to the 10% and the SNA report that Waikato Bruce's team did for Napier City Council, I think there was a figure in there as a sort of a baseline for them 3 years ago or whenever it was, about what the coverage of significant natural areas in Napier is, so kind of where you were at a few years ago. And I suppose it could be done again now or into the future to figure out whether you're going up or down or staying somewhere, hopefully up. I think the big thing though for Napier was that many of the significant natural areas are places that Napier City Council actually owns or manages, and so you've actually got the ability to directly impact those, as opposed to, say, Hastings, where many of those natural areas are on private land, and therefore there's different ways, that you might have to, or they might have to sort of negotiate how those areas are managed. So what I'm saying is, the council has the potential for direct involvement in increasing the scope of those areas. Yeah, I can find that report if you're interested and look into what the potential is for getting another rating on that percentage from that baseline if you're interested.
I was just wondering if we're heading in the right direction, that was all.
Yeah.
I think you started in the right direction by actually getting the report kind of when you actually did, because now at least you have a baseline and you actually have identified those areas you actually want, where a lot of, not all council has actually done that, so.
Great question, and certainly we're, Biodiversity Hawke's Bay, very happy to help you go in that right direction. So, yeah, it's good exploration.
Supposed to say, no, you need more trees.
Yes.
Nothing succeeds like success, however, so you are going in the right direction, but yeah, you need more.
I think that's another point actually, is that we need to celebrate the success, and it was great that Belinda helped the Marae Totara Tree Trust do an application for the Cawthron Clean Water Awards where they got second, and I think we need to keep making and promoting, and we will keep suggesting community groups going for those awards, because nothing gives yourself a pat on the back like actually winning one of those awards and having it promoted.
Councillor Crystal.
Yes, through the chair, just one of the projects that that kind of close to my heart is the kakabeak plants, and I read that because a lot of them came from Burintutira, and I read that they got quite wiped out in the cyclone, the nursery and stuff, and they're looking for seeds. So how's that going, getting more, I guess, more seeds to grow them?
Well, I went to an event at Murray Taylor's Plant Hawke's Bay,
Yeah.
and that James Parry spoke at and did a presentation and gave away a whole lot more.
Okay.
Yes, a lot were actually wiped out, but there's actually still a lot that are there. And what they've done is they've got a register now of people. They've given away a lot of plants, and with the register, and people are getting their seeds back so that they can just turn around and give their name and the seed type. So there is a plan going forward. It's great that they're a group that we can continue to support financially as well, because we do actually, with the Regional Council, run an environmental enhancement contestable fund each year, and so this year we funded 11 projects, and so it's good that those sorts of projects get some funding to keep going. So yes, it did take a hit, but it's not fatal.
Because there's quite a lot at Park Island, I notice, flowering, so I'm hoping the council gardeners will collect them and get them back, because they look really good. They've grown quite well now.
They're a lovely looking plant.
Oh no, they're really cool.
Okay, final question from Councillor Brown, I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that, and it's amazing to see the mahi that you're doing. I'm just wondering, what's the biggest challenge that you face around getting progress in this space, and is there anything that we as council can do? Is it just money, or is there something?
Yeah, that's probably a very good question to finish on. It is money. It's as simple as that. You probably sensed this morning we've got a great team, and as I mentioned earlier, the team that's not here is my fellow governors of the organisation, and I guess there's a whole bunch of stuff happening every week across Hawke's Bay, and so it is critical that the team we have is continued to be funded. We could do more with more funding. So Belinda is well and truly stressed over the whole of Hawke's Bay. So we do what we can. We prioritise what we think is the important stuff, things like the kakabeak, which I'm growing quite a few of them myself. So I'm a good question. They're growing well. But it's under constant pressure, as we know, biodiversity. Cyclone Gabrielle does no favours. But it's an ongoing battle. And I guess simply put, to sum up with while we're here, if Napier can assist with our funding, we've got the team and the expertise to do a whole lot better. And to this gentleman's question here, we can grow that 10%, with your support and your help. So that's what we're after.
Excellent, thank you very much, and I am going to have an action point made to get one of our council officers to just have a look at what potential funding sources there are within council, and we will feed that back to you so that you can see what pathways there might be to access funding from ourselves. So I'll do that. And I just want to fully support and endorse the comments made by Deputy Mayor Brosnan for all the work that you have been doing, and the fact that you do work in partnership with community groups and support them is just absolutely pivotal to the success of these projects. And from a council perspective, thank you so much for acting actually as a connector with some of these groups to empower them to feel more comfortable to come and engage with us, because that's one of our biggest challenges, is actually getting the community to come to us, and there's a whole variety of reasons why they find that challenging. So to have yourselves there assisting them with that is fantastic for us. So thank you very, very much for that, and thank you for your incredibly informative presentation today. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Right, thanks for your kind words, and thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trees here, 10 trees there.
Right, we will move now to announcements by myself. And I did want to take the opportunity today to acknowledge Les Hewitt, who I know we are all very familiar with. He has been very active for a number of years in a number of voluntary roles, and just recently resigned from one of those in the Positive Ageing Trust, and I just felt that was a good opportunity to actually sort of highlight some of the things he has done over the years and thank him in this public forum. So Mr Hewitt's service to the community here in Hawke's Bay actually extends back to 1961 when he was a National Councillor for the New Zealand Printing Trades Union. And he was also involved in Joint Union Services, Clerical Workers Union and New Zealand Food Processing and Chemical Workers Union, as well as the Secretary and National Councillor for the Hawke's Bay Trades Council and the New Zealand Federation of Labour. So a very busy man, but then on top of that he also has worked closely with our disabled community commenced in 1976 when he joined the Rehabilitation League of New Zealand as the Hospital Rehabilitation Officer, and he actually established the Hospital Rehabilitation Officer Service here in Hawke's Bay, where he subsequently achieved the posts of Senior Rehabilitation Officer and District Director. In latter years, Les became Central Region Manager and Special Project Manager of Workbridge Incorporated. His community involvement also includes being the youngest Justice of the Peace appointed here in Hawke's Bay, and many years association with local and international Toastmasters, achieving the post of President for the local club and District Governor of New Zealand, as well as achieving many, many recognition awards. His work with the disabled also includes associations with the Napier Disabled Persons Assembly and the New Zealand Riding for the Disabled. In addition to that, Les actually does still continue in his role with the Hastings branch of the Royal New Zealand Air Force Association, currently is the acting secretary and newsletter editor. I think probably for many of us, our main involvement with Les in recent years has been his active advocacy for the restoration of our Napier War Memorial, and we would have heard from him many, many times over the years that we progressed that project. So a huge thank you to him for his staunch views on that project and engaging with us in a really positive way. So really just wanting to acknowledge Les's record of long-standing service to our community and thank him very much on behalf of Council for all that he has done here throughout Hawke's Bay. Now, are there any minor matters not on the agenda? No, so I'll pass across to announcements by the Chief Executive.
Just one, the item 3 of the agenda will be withdrawn. This is the Hawke's Bay Museum Research and Archive Centre naming paper. We're still working through with Hastings District Council and our Ngā Nuka Iwi Committee regarding the name change. We hope to get a paper to either next council in December or into the first council of the new year.
Thank you very much. Now, confirmation of the minutes. We've got 3 sets of draft minutes. First from Thursday the 5th of October, then Thursday the 12th of October and Wednesday the 8th of November. So anyone who was present for all 3, thank you Councillor Mawson and Councillor Crystal. All those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Right, let's jump into our agenda items, and first up we have the capital program delivery, and Jamie and Robin, Jason. coming to present that. Welcome.
I'm afraid Russell, Jamie and Kate are away, Your Honour, so you've got us two. So, Jamie has asked me to just present the report. There may be areas of it which I'm not certain about it, but hopefully between Jason and myself we'll have a pretty good idea of be able to respond to most questions you have. This report was initially planned for the Sustainable Napier Committee, but as that was the only paper I understand that was going to it, then the meeting was cancelled. So we are about 2 weeks behind on the reporting, but it's still in the correct month. Just obviously we're approaching halfway through the year. So there's quite a few tenders are out now to be hitting the construction season just after Christmas. There's a list of those on page 2. I'm aware that the Emerson Street Road Revitalisation Design Service tender has been completed and is being evaluated. Don't have any updates on any of the others though, I'm afraid. As Jamie's written, industry capacity is still a real issue to us. While it feels to the community that everything's kind of fixed after Gabrielle, regionally and nationally, particularly geotechnical, civil engineering and contracting resources are still in very, very short supply. And they're all getting much, much larger projects than we're offering. So we are seeing a reduced number of tenders for most of our projects, which I guess potentially makes them less competitive. And then just onto the spreadsheet. I think I will probably defer to questions on any specifics, but I would like to take the opportunity to give an update on the Pukatichu Road safety improvements, because I'm aware that's an action point for later in the meeting. So if you're okay with me covering that off now. So negotiations have been ongoing for quite a while with this job. The Emerald Hills joint venture have been working with us. We have a number of moving parts. We've got all the a relocation and shift of the road, which is an improvement for our asset. We've got the construction of 2 accesses into the Emerald Hills development. We've got land purchase from Emerald Hills, and we've got relocation of services from what was the old current route of the road into what will be the new road corridor. And later on then we've got a question of what we do with the surplus land that we've moved away from. So we have our design at about 95%, so we're pretty much ready to go on that. The earthworks have been done by Emerald Hills' contractor, so that's been done. So they've done our roading earthworks as well, which is around about $1.2 million worth of work, so there's quite significant earthworks there. And so we're just in the hopefully late stages of just negotiations on the price for the land, after which time we'll be able to press go on most of those things. So all coming together, but a lot of moving parts. Have you got any you want to jump into?
No, but I'm happy to take any questions in regards to the Parks and Reserves projects and the Parklands projects.
Thank you, and thank you for that
good
update on
questions.
Pukatichu. That was very useful. I open for any questions. Deputy Mayor Bosman.
Thank you, team. Just a couple of quick questions. The surplus land and the Emerald Hills realignment of roading that needs to happen. Can you talk me through what process happens for redesignating, talking to neighbours, etc.?
Your worship, there are a number of options. We can just leave it as road reserve and kind of just have it there as informal land, but we'll just end up having to mow it in perpetuity. The ideal would be to sell it to an adjoining landowner. There is only one adjoining landowner there, so we would have to just enter into direct willing seller, willing buyer if that was something that they wanted to do. We have had initial conversations, but I'm probably not in a position to say where they're going.
Yeah, no, thank you. The reason why I ask is, could we be kept informed of that, whether that's formally or informally? I just know there is potential community use that's being explored there, so it would be of interest.
That's what we've been discussing, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And just through you, Your Worship, one question for you, Jason, on the Anderson Park Phase 2 project. I wonder if you could give us a bit of an update on that.
Yeah, and through you, Your Worship. That project, we have gone through detailed design now for a number of the elements. It is a series of smaller projects that make up the greater project. I believe we are looking to tender in the next couple of weeks for some of these smaller components around additional access ways, concreting, footpaths, as well as barbecue and picnic areas to increase the capacity for families to utilise that area. And we are just finalising some detailed design around other elements around the potential cafe location. And we are also about to tender out part of the project that involves increasing the amount of accessible equipment for children to play with. So that's a pretty exciting part of that project, which hopefully we can have tendered and awarded early in the new year and have construction happening just on the tail end of the school holidays. But I'll be pushing that one as hard as I can.
Thank you. Just one quick follow-up, if that's all right. The project around the cafe, I know we've moved away from repurposing the toilet facility that was originally mooted. So assuming that will then be demoed in some capacity, do you have a rough time frame when you'd be looking to do that, how that marries in with your tendering process?
Yeah, so my intention is that we would wait until the end of the peak season or use over the summer and looked to undertake demolition and construction in the, I suppose, the tail end of autumn. And it will be subject to going out to tender and availability of contractors, of course.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And actually a follow-on question from myself as well in terms of that new construction or plans in general around an accessible restroom toilet area. Is that something that's still being included in that overall project plan?
Yeah, we do have the existing toilet block in that area with those facilities. We have had some issues in the past with vandalism of our area with the hoist and bed in it at the northern end of the facility. We have been working with community services in regard to how we manage that to ensure the right people are getting access to that facility and not the wrong people. That is ongoing at this stage, but I hope to conclude that imminently.
Okay. So my recollection is that wasn't actually being used at all. Is that not the case? Is it actually available for use, that existing?
So currently we have two accessible toilets in that facility. One is what I call your traditional Building Act compliant accessible toilet, which is open to the public at all times except for night. The other facility, we can receive phone calls if somebody needs to get in there and provide access to it, but we haven't because of the vandalism issue. And that's where the decision in regard to how we monitor or manage that to ensure that only the right people are utilising that facility. We have a high number of vandalism and I suppose other antisocial behaviour issues in that park. And as part of the cafe development, the other developments around security as well, we're currently looking to install security cameras in that area. Hopefully this is a joint venture of all these different mechanisms to manage the antisocial behaviour. We'll be able to reopen that facility to ensure that the council isn't paying significant fees to basically repair an asset on a renewal, a frequent basis.
Thank you. If we could just make a note in the action register that we could be kept updated on that, because I know it has been an ongoing issue for quite some time, and hopefully, as you state, we might be reaching some sort of resolution around that, so it would be great just to be kept in the loop on that one. Thanks, Jason. Councillor Brown.
Through the chair, one for Robin, the steps and ramps on Onslow Street, or the Onslow steps rather, I know I ask for updates on this one regularly, but just we've had another lot of interest from the public. Can you just talk us through where we're up to with that one and sort of what we've got planned for some community consultation?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we have had ongoing interest from the community, particularly those who sort of live in the Onslow Street sort of area and that end of Clyde Road. It is a really good link for them into town. and certainly it being steps, it was always used by a certain portion of the population who weren't quite so comfortable on the Brewster Street ramp. The project has hit a number of technical and legal issues, access being the current issue with regard to getting in there. It's a very narrow corridor that we legally own, so we are at the mercy a little bit of neighbouring landowners to let us get in and do the work. So we're just working through some of those issues at the moment, but we've got a design, we've got steps prefabricated and things, so we're just kind of waiting to finish that off. We have suggested a meeting with some of the residents, and we'll look to do that in the next week or so.
Brilliant, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, so the recommendation we have in front of us is to receive the report titled Capital Program Delivery dated 23rd November 2023. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Grigg. Would you like to speak to that?
It's pretty, we've covered what points needed covering. Thank you.
Any other speakers? None. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Robin and Jason, for filling in. Great answers to all the questions. Excellent. Next up, we have the Hawke's Bay Airport Limited Annual Report for the year ended 30 June 2023. And I will welcome our guests as they enter the room. So we have Rob Stratford, Chief Executive, and Rochelle Ham, the Chief Financial Officer, here to present their annual report to us today. So welcome to you both. Lovely to have you here with us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Does that sound well? So, ate maria, and very good morning to everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And Rochelle and I will just really focus on some key highlights, actually. But first of all, I'd like to record that there's a wonderful letter written by our respective mayors to Air New Zealand. We didn't, unfortunately, get the response that we would like, but we'll keep pushing away in that avenue. So, how do I get the slides?
There you go.
So just addressing some of the key highlights. Most of you remember it was a very chill November morning. I remember it distinctly that we had our blessing around the forecourt and then opened it more formally. And we're very proud of the airport in terms of where it is this day. It's quite a tribute to the Hawke's Bay region. Zero harm. We have had 2 zero harm incidents last year or this current year. And the cause of that is we've actually adjusted our benchmark. So originally harm was defined as a lost time injury, and now we've changed that to a medical treatment injury because that is still harm. And it applies to not only our own employees but also everyone that moves in and out of the airport. So we had 2 incidents. They were medical treatment injuries. They weren't serious, but we'll continue to work really hard in this sphere and do our best to try and get it down to 0. As you can see, and probably from a high level, the minute our passenger numbers start to increase very quickly, revenue gets a real kicker, and obviously EBITDA, that's our cash flow, and net profit have rebounded quite significantly and quite quickly. So that's very encouraging, which has enabled us to repay quite a bit of debt throughout the year, and we've continued to do that. As you're probably all aware, we sit with a fairly prestigious ACA 4+ accreditation award. We're the only airport in Australasia to currently have that, and that will require quite a bit of attention going forward because they've now announced a level 5, which requires us to then address in New Zealand and some of the other tenants on the airport's carbon emissions, and that will be challenging for us to deal with that. Throughout the cyclone, of course, we were fully operational, and it was a wonderful experience for us, both in terms of the number of people within the area that came in and out of the airport just to charge battery devices, call loved ones, have a cup of coffee. And it sort of changed our thinking a little bit in terms of what the airport's role is going forward. And so we need to be mindful of that we are obviously a public utility and a lifeline utility, but we haven't certainly had those numbers of people coming in and out of the airport, and many of them were quite distressed for the first 3 or 4 days. On our SOI front, you'll probably remember last year, coming out of COVID, we had a number of sort of red to yellow metrics sitting there because we just couldn't get to a number of those specific tasks. Well, we've been fortunate with another year under our belt to clear most of those, and we move forward. And then just lastly, even though the Air New Zealand route between Gisborne and Hawke's Bay didn't last terribly long, we've been able to find a replacement or a substitute. A very small aircraft, carries 6 people, but that is going quite strongly, and Sunny Air is actually looking at a larger aircraft. He's thinking about a 19-seater, which would be lovely because that's still an essential service for the region. Again, I'll pass over to Michelle now too.
Just going to take you through just a few key, I guess, performance highlights or lowlights, but mostly highlights. Essentially for FY23, which was year ending 30 June, 12.7 million of revenue, 5.2 million of OPEX, but a profit of 2.8 million. So I just want to point out in that 2.8 million, we did actually have some revaluations around the business park land and assets. That was 631 of that. So still a fairly good, like close on 2.2 pre-valuation adjustments. So a really good year, and our EBITDA number was sort of sitting 59 to about 61%. So a really good result there on where we'd come from. The other key thing, you'll see there the hockey stick line, just the top line, that's basically our passenger numbers. So you can see where we came from in FY22 and into FY23, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail, but that really helped drive our revenue number. The other thing we'd just point out is all of our financial metrics have actually improved quite significantly on what our SOI was as well. So return on equity gone from 1.4% in the SOI to 5.5%, so a massive improvement there. And our gearing's actually massively improved down to 30.5%, which is a lot better level and reflects some of the debt repayment that we made during the year as well. If we look at passenger numbers, so this is just a graph that shows the monthly passengers through the terminal, and you can see the big spike here is really around when the cyclone recovery started kicking in, so that's actually March 23. So that was our biggest month in terms of Air New Zealand, and almost back when Jetstar was flying. So we did over 67,000 passengers, and I think our biggest month ever was about 69 back in 2018, 2019. So it just shows how many people were actually flying at that time, and it really did give us a massive boost to our yearly numbers. So we sat at 640,000 passengers, which is up 62% on last year, and that's certainly driven revenue. In terms of load factor, and this is sort of the battle, I guess, we've got at the moment, just we averaged 86% load factor, so that means that for every seat on that plane, it was 86% full, versus our SOI, which was 78%. It just means that really we've got no capacity on the flights, and even this year we're still sitting around that 86%. So it's a massive problem in terms of needing to get capacity to drive the growth. In terms of where that goes for the SOI, we're just expecting moderate growth, and that's largely driven by capacity.
The other big call out that we're quite proud of is the increase in commercial revenue. So one of our goals was to actually diversify from the aeronautical side of revenue, which is obviously why we're there, but trying to actually generate revenue in addition to the aeronautical. So that was up 77% on the year previously. The key drivers of that are really car parking, but pleasingly car rentals. So a lot more people renting cars. We're getting a lot more concession income, but also retail. So improving our offerings to people coming through, and it's really starting to show in some of the metrics around the retail passenger spend rates. If we just thought we'd actually talk a little bit about 2024 as well and take you through sort of what we're looking at this year and some of the things that are coming up. So in terms of our capital works program, we've got 8 million in the SOI for 2024. And the key things there are really around the apron overlay. So that was deferred into this year from last year because the cyclone took out the asphalt plant. So it basically, we've been challenging how we get that done, but I think that's starting on the 4th of December, fingers crossed. So that's looking promising. We have purchased a fire appliance, so we'll take delivery of that hopefully in June 2024 or July, depending on shipping. And then we've got some car park enhancements and working towards building the new fire station. We're still targeting zero harm. I think with the metric, including customers and contractors and staff, it's actually quite a challenge, but we're doing quite a lot around how we report that and understanding what's driving that so we can actually start doing something about some of the areas that are causing concern. We're expecting 650,000 passengers through the terminal, so we were 640 last year, so a slight increase and we're on track to get there. Profit similar to last year. We are forecasting to draw down 2.8 million, and that's really to fund the capital works because there are some quite big projects in that 8 million. Just in terms of some of the big things, it's our 60th anniversary in February, so look out for some events over that time to help us celebrate. We are hoping to lodge the solar farm consent by the end of February 2024. So wait for that one to come, Rob. And just continuing to work on the Aeropark and increasing our revenue through there. If we look at a Q1 update for 2024, we're right on track in terms of where we sit with our SOI. So our profit after tax, 486,000 versus an SOI of 425, so slightly ahead. And even though our passenger numbers are slightly behind, we're constantly catching up, and we had 12,500 people through the terminal in the 4 days over Robbie Williams. So massive, and I'm expecting a pretty big November, which is actually really exciting. So continuing to improve our metrics and well on track. So back to you.
So one of the things that's concerned me in my year and a half is the lack of signage on the terminal. And we're finally now addressing this, and we hope to have this installed before Christmas. And we're just waiting on Mana Ahareri to give their approval. Some of the words actually are challenging. Like if you put welcome to Hawke's Bay into Maori, it's quite a long word. So we've had to abbreviate some of them, but really looking forward to having some new signage, both on the entranceway coming through Watchman Road, obviously check-in and arrivals, and then on the other side as well. And it's really overdue that we have some really clear signage around the terminal. And just lastly, I want to cover sort of a couple of general points. As Rochelle has mentioned, we are constrained within New Zealand currently, and that's largely why we feel the growth won't be excessive this year. However, we do expect that when the real work commences, let's say it commences February next year, and I know looking at the recovery material and the number of people that are expected to come into Hawke's Bay, there are thousands of workers that will be here working on the ground. And we're concerned about our ability to actually service that need, to be able to provide the capacity for what will more than likely be sort of FIFO workers coming into Hawke's Bay during the week. So that's a challenge for us, and one that we will continue to push hard with Air New Zealand on. Dividends, you probably have noticed that there is a dividend that's forecast in the 2025 year, and the board will obviously address that in 24 again and revisit that in terms of its appropriateness. But for now, we are focusing on debt repayment and investing in critical infrastructure. And just on the solar farm, we have hit two rather difficult issues there. Firstly, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the NESF legislation that governs inland wetlands. And as you know, as you approach the airport, we've got two lovely wetlands on either side of Watchman Road. And our regional council are currently of the view that the whole airport is really an inland wetland. So we have some challenges to address that issue. And then more recently, as we've started the technical assessments, both the archaeology work and the cultural assessment, it's obvious that some of the very early islands that were in the bay before the earthquake do have sites of Maori significance, and two of them are sitting right in the middle of the solar farm. So we might have some challenges there as well. However, we do have a plan to address that, and we may expand further west and grab some property from Ahuriri Farms to give us additional land capacity if we need it. And we'll work tirelessly with, obviously, Pāmu and Manawa Ahuriri to provide the options that we may need to grab that extra land if that's required. But overall, I think it's been a good year, and we see no reason why this year will be any real difference other than just the capacity constraints that we currently have with Air New Zealand. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rob and Rochelle. So, look, I do want to take a moment to actually acknowledge the fact that you have your ACA 4+ accreditation, the only airport in Australasia to have achieved this. Absolutely fantastic. And also, I want to congratulate you on the Sustainability Initiative of the Year award that you received from the New Zealand Airports Association for the ASB Sustainability Link Loan. Well done on that. Just fantastic to see you getting that national recognition. Also, hey, congratulations on the financial result, obviously, well exceeding what you had in your SOI, and in terms of being able to pay down some of that debt earlier than anticipated, and your continued plan to reduce debt, that is something that obviously as shareholders we have supported and will continue to support. And obviously we'll look at future dividends, but I think that debt reduction really is the priority at the moment. One quick question with regards to the load capacity, and just wanting to know, are we currently back at pre-COVID flight volumes from Air New Zealand, or are we still missing some of the flights we used to have?
Yeah,
We're really close.
Yeah.
I think Auckland's about 3% down, but we'll catch up by the end of this financial year. And I think Wellington is pretty much the same. Christchurch is the one where the route growth is. So I think there's 400 additional flights in this year planned that were far greater than pre-COVID. So we'll be slightly ahead by the end of this year. So we're basically there.
Except in New Zealand.
Excluding Jetstar.
They're not aware of the Jetstar 100K of passengers that we used to have, so that doesn't sort of register on their radar.
Right.
So, but I've got a call with them actually on Friday, so I'm hoping that we can address some of the issues, although we are actually worried about their jet fleet. You would have seen that there's cracks in their engines, and they'll be pulling those jets off service. And of course, for us as a regional airport, the concern there is that those ATRs might be dispatched on a sort of a Christchurch to Wellington route, So we could be fighting for aircraft even more severely than we are currently.
Right, okay. Well, look, we will certainly continue to support you in terms of that ongoing conversation with Air New Zealand, and it would be good just to be kept updated with, particularly with regards to that jet issue. And lastly, just wanting to say 60th anniversary for you next year. That's really exciting. It's our 150th anniversary as a council. So we're actually planning a whole year of events and celebrations, and there might be an opportunity for us to link in there and actually do some events together. So just keep that in mind as well. So, excellent. Right, I open up for questions. Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, just through the chair. Again, reiterating your success in partnerships and your environmental side of things, absolutely awesome. I did note in there one of your team, Damien Corbett, got unsung hero. So just a shout out to him.
Yeah.
I know him from way back, a really good guy. Don't want to say too much there. But jumping into the business side of things, the business park, it doesn't seem to be going in leaps and bounds, and seems to be a lot of opportunity space there still. Have you got some plans going into the future there that you can share with us, or?
Certainly, and look, you know, coming from Australia as I did over a year and a half ago, I'm surprised at how difficult it's been to kickstart it. We had a tenant that was about to sign up just around the 30th of June. And then sadly, there was some legislation passed through Parliament which increased some legislative requirement around the manufacturing of supplements, and they've pulled out for the moment. But there is good interest. I think the major problem we have is it just seems conceptual. We have redone our master plan, and that now gives everyone a really good feel for where the activities would sit on the airport. So we are able now to really push hard, and we're getting closer. And I think once we have one or two, then it'll start to snowball, because there isn't a lot of land there really. And then the business hub and the freight hub will also play a part in that as well. So one of the other initiatives we've been working really hard on is the exporting of freight directly out of Hawke's Bay rather than pushing it to Auckland, and that will require quite a lot of extra storage space for that facility. So there will be some drivers, and I'm hopeful. One of my KPIs is deliver 2 lease agreements by the 30th of June, so I'm certainly compelled to make it work.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
Councillor Bogue, then Councillor Green.
Through you, Madam Chair. First of all, congratulations on a great report, and it's really good to have it shared with the public as well, and I hope future reports will be, because it's a real success story. Just a question. I recall a few years ago the airport had a Māori name, something Ahuriri, and I wondered what happened about that. It was quite sort of controversial or discussed widely at the time. But do you recall what's happened to that Māori name?
No, I don't, and perhaps I should look into it, because it would have been prior to my appointment, I'd imagine. So it would be Stuart, would have been his time.
Probably, yes. Thank you.
Councillor Green.
Through the chair, thank you. Thanks, Rob and Michelle, for your report. It's full of great successes. It's been a really good read. Just a specific question about ticketless parking. I note you say it's been a success. Have you had passenger and customer feedback specifically about it? What are people saying?
That's a very interesting question. Look, I think by and large it's positive, but what we have discovered is that, and it's quite a surprise, that the P120, which is the free 15-minute car parking facility, that is getting smashed. So there's about 70% of the traffic passes through that area. And one of the frustrations with that is that there's only one boom gate at the exit. And if someone forgets their registration, or they've been there actually longer than they thought they were, so they've actually ticked over 16 or 17 minutes rather than 15, then they have to back out. And of course, if you've got 4 or 5 cars behind you, it's a nightmare. So we have got some additional work to do, but it is starting to generate some benefit, and Rochelle can probably talk about what we're now doing with the data that's coming out of the car park and feeding it into a database, and the sort of richness that we now have access to is quite compelling. So there are some other advantages with that as well. But it is, I think overall it's been moderately successful, and certainly, but there have been frustrations.
I think a lot of the earlier frustrations are finally starting to bed down. We've spent quite a lot of time, we've had issues with things, even things like black number plates not being picked up, all that sort of stuff, which nobody really expected, but we're working through the issues, and the provider is actually pretty on to working with us to fix them. So we had a period that was quite bad, I guess, when we first went, and a lot of it was around education. So we've invested quite a lot through the ambassadors in educating people, and we're now down to very few issues. Yeah.
Any further questions? No. So the recommendation is, of course, to receive the Hawke's Bay Airport annual report and auditor's report for the year ended 30 June 2023. I'm happy to move from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mawson. And look, just once again, congratulations on a great result, and thank you for taking the time to come and present to us today. We remain committed to working in partnership with you, not only as a shareholder, but just as one of your local councils. So looking forward to what's in the pipeline, and I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of each other over the ensuing rest of this year and next year with the celebrations that are on the way. So great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Wilson?
Just to say, yes, a very comprehensive report and always delivered well. Thank you.
Any other speakers? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rochelle. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Of course, moving on to agenda item 3, which has been withdrawn. So we'll jump ahead to agenda item 4, the State Highway 51 Napier to Hastings safety improvements, beach domain foreshore reserve land required. And we have Brian and Jason here to speak to the paper.
Good morning. So this item seeks approval for various authorisations required under Reserves Act, Public Works Act and Resource Management Act relating to land legalisation issues required for the relating to the construction of a new roundabout, State Highway 51, Napier to Hastings, at the intersection of Awatoto Road. So the construction of that roundabout, as explained in the report, requires Wakakatahi to acquire a portion of the foreshore reserve, and that vested in the Crown as road. In addition, they require temporary occupation of some of our reserve land for the construction works, including the Domain car park further, that's south, isn't it, further south. So obviously the roundabout's important for road safety, obviously in the public interest, and so we're really just seeking approval for these to sign various authorisations. So hopefully the report's reasonably self-explanatory, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, I just noticed, through the chair, sorry. I just noticed that the roundabout seems to be pushed right across to the beach side of things. And where does it leave our lovely cycleway? Because it looks like it's been obliterated, for a better term. Where are we at with that?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the reason for the roundabout being pushed relatively far into the reserve is that due to the Kiwi Rail line, there has to be enough of a standing bay to get a truck on the other side of that naturally.
Yep.
That naturally pushes the roundabout into the reserve. However, the design actually does miss that rotary pathway. It gets close to, but it does not impact it. If it was to impact it through detailed design, we would naturally require them to build it to go around the current space. But the plans I have show that this designation and the proposed development will not impact that walkway. And I'm happy to show you what the plans I have as well, if that is of assistance.
Councillor Mawson and then Councillor Tariha.
Through the chair, just following on from that, Jason, was there enough room before? Do you know if through the previous intersection whether or not there's enough room for a truck before? Or is this sort of like solving that issue as well, if you know?
I don't believe there was, but through you, Madam Chair, it would be more of a question for our friends at Wakakatahi around how they manage that. But yes, it is about the improvement of the intersection, so I'm assuming that this also addresses that issue.
Thank you.
Councillor Tariha.
Apologies, Your Worship, I'm just flagging a conflict of interest with this.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg and then Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Through the chair, just safety question. So how are the cyclists and pedestrians protected from that roundabout when they're on the path? Is there going to be any sort of barrier or protection there?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, so basically there's going to be quite a substantial landscaping that will be undertaken along the interface of the roundabout and the existing reserve on both sides. And that will provide a good separation, as well as part of the design that Wakakatahi's agents have undertaken. They've undertaken safety audits on that. One of the key aspects of this and an improvement for our pedestrian and cycling members of our public is actually having a formalised crossing across here to get those residents of the Te Awa area across safely onto our wonderful cycleway along the Marine Parade. So I see this as a beneficial in that aspect, and they have thought about it.
Great, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, team. Couple of questions. It's always good to highlight my understanding of this area is it's not eroding in terms of its proximity to the foreshore. Are you able to confirm that? Whenever we're building or creating assets on beach foreshore, I know it's always a community concern. Of course, we have erosion in Hawke's Bay, but this area of the beach, I believe, is not.
Through you, Madam Chair, my understanding of the coastal environment in this area from my readings is that it is accreting, it's growing. That can be seen with signs of the old ski lane being buried, the signs on that along the northern end of the beach. That's the current environment, to my understanding. It's not my area of expertise, that is my understanding. However, certainty around that area, again, a question I can't give you complete certainty, but this asset will be owned by Wakakatahi through this divesting of reserve.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, just a second question, and excuse me if I have missed it in here. Can I ask probably a silly question? Why are we not being compensated?
Well, it's reserve land. It's Crown-derived land.
What was that second bit, sorry?
It's Crown-derived land, so Crown-derived. So it started life with the Crown.
Right.
It was vested in Napier City Council, I think the old Napier Borough Council, I think. So it has no market value. You can't sell reserve land, and if the reserve status was revoked, it would revert back to the Crown. So no, Napier City Council can't expect to be compensated for the sale of that land.
Through you, Your Worship, I would like to understand that a little bit better, if that's all right. So we obviously have reserve along the whole of the foreshore, and there have been instances where we have changed that zoning and gone through and we've put community assets as well on those reserves and things like that. So it has a value to the ratepayer. I know you're saying it has no value. I just want to understand, so you're saying if it was to, a change of designation happen on this piece of land, away from reserve, it would automatically be vested back in the Crown?
If the reserve status through the chair was revoked,
Yes.
it would revert back to the Crown. But basically, you can't sell reserve land.
Can you think of examples along there where we have I can't. I know we've put community assets on there.
That's more what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever actually changed the designation from being reserve land
That's
to.
right, through the chair, we've changed, like, it's still reserve land under the Reserves Act, but we've changed the designation from recreation reserve to local purpose community building reserve to enable the aquarium, the conference centre, the latest one we've done is for the new war memorial. We had to change the designation of some of the land by the new war memorial from recreation reserve to local purpose community building reserve, but haven't revoked the underlying Reserves Act status.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Bowe.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. In this construction, does it solve the problem of a safe place for cyclists and pedestrians to cross the highway?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, there will be a new designated crossing point for pedestrians and cyclists on the Napier side of the roundabout.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Just further to that, and thank you, Councillor Bowe. With the Active Transport Committee meeting next week, could we be provided with the detailed design so that the Active Transport Committee can see that designated crossing? Because you're saying it's provided to allow the Te Awa residents to cross to the foreshore pathway, the Rotary pathway.
Through you, Madam Chair, I can definitely do that.
Okay. If there's no further questions or discussion, could I ask for a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan and Councillor Price. Would you like to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Councillor Price.
I just think it's a good safety asset that's going into a busy bit of road. It's really good.
Any further speakers? No right of reply? So again, there's a number of recommendations in here, but essentially you're providing consent to council officers to proceed with the consenting and delegation requirements for these safety improvements. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Brian and Jason. And now we are moving into agenda item 5, which is the LGNZ 4-monthly report. This is a new report that's being produced by our membership body. So I will pass over to Andrew just to introduce the report. I don't know if there's a lot to say, but...
Thank you. Good morning. No, the report is the report. I can run through what's in it, but I probably should just take it as read. Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'll open for questions. It may be more that it's a case of us compiling any questions we have to put back to LGNZ. But are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Bowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is not a question for LGNZ, but for us. What's happened to the Mayor's task force for jobs in our city?
So through the chair, I can ask that we were approached around whether we have capacity to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have capacity or budget to do that in this upcoming round, but we are looking at how we could do that going forwards.
So we are still involved. I sit on the mayoral group that governs that, but we don't have any actual activity underway at the moment for the reasons it's outlined by Louise. Any further questions? Councillor Taylor.
I'm not quite sure who might be able to answer it, but I noticed in the council mark refresh or redesign that's being undertaken, is there any timeline as to when this is going to be complete and maybe reintroduced or not reintroduced?
So through the chair, obviously this is an LGNZ initiative. What I can say though is we've no intention of undertaking another council mark exercise in the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, could I therefore have a mover and seconder for the recommendation to receive this report? Thank you, Councillor Bode, seconded by Councillor Crystal. Would you like to speak to that?
Just briefly, I think it's a great idea to, strengthen that relationship and the information flow. So look forward to getting these, I think, every 4 months, 3 months, just for us to, keep that relationship alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crystal.
No, I'm all good.
Excellent. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. And on to our next paper, which, Andrew, you're with us for the next few. Action Points Register is at the 7th of November 2023.
Again, it is what it says on the tin. So happy to take any questions or possibly to defer to other people who might be able to answer questions on anything contained in the register.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. And we'll just comment, it is great to see that there has been a number of these actions completed over the period. And it's been a really useful initiative that's been introduced, I think, for us to actually track effectively the actions that come out of our various meetings. So it's very helpful. I'll open up if there are any particular questions on action points within the register. Councillor Brown.
Through you, Madam Chair, just one that seems to have dropped off was the roadmap for our asset management maturity as an organisation. Don't know where that's gone, whether it was, I don't think it's been completed. So. That came through the Audit and Risk Committee. So just flagging it.
There is a roadmap in here somewhere.
Yeah, that's the first. And the very first one, there's one around health and safety, risk management rather, but there was another one for the asset management as well, similar.
Is that page 64 and 65?
Did I miss it?
Look at NCC activities and how much needs to be invested.
The bottom of page 64 and top of page 65 is 3.
Oh. Yeah. Those ones have all been completed. We were after a roadmap.
Perhaps we could just make it, follow that one up. Thank you.
Will do.
Oh, sorry, there it is, page 66, to be completed, top of page 66. Provide a health and safety roadmap.
No, asset management.
Okay, I'm going to stop.
Yeah. Thank you for trying to find it though. Keep me running. Okay, any further questions?
I'll add an action point for the action point.
Okay, if there's no further questions or discussion, could I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan and Councillor Gregg. Either of you wish to speak to that?
Very briefly, as this is your last meeting with us, just to convey my thanks. I can't speak on behalf of others, but I
was waiting till his last paper.
Oh, is there another paper?
Off you go.
My personal thanks. My personal thanks. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you very much.
Kicks in win.
I didn't realise there was another paper.
There's another two.
Of course, that'll be you as well. Sorry, Andrew. I'm going to give up.
You should know by now.
I'd like you to give up that easily.
If I get into the seat, you can't get me out.
Any further speakers? No, I will put the motion then that we note the action points register. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. And carried. And next up we have the amendment to the 2023 schedule of standing committees and council meetings, which again I think we'll probably just take as read, shall we, Andrew? Pretty straightforward. The addition of a ever exciting dog hearing. which I'm sure that people sitting on that hearing are very much looking forward to. Is there any questions on this one? Okay, so could I have a mover and second? Thank you, Councillor Taylor and Councillor McGrath. Any comments? So we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And last from you, Andrew, is the minutes from the HBRC Joint Committee, Clifton Tupungoyo Coastal Hazards Strategy Joint Committee. Does one of our representatives on that committee want to give a brief update? Councillor Brown?
Kia ora, through the chair. I chaired this. It was a pretty straightforward meeting. The key thing that we discussed was an overview of all of the things that are going on in the adaptation space, of which climate change is just one. So, and then we've also obviously got the Climate Action Joint Committee, which is looking at overall our mitigation and adaptation as a region. And just thinking about where that fits in, and the key piece of work that we're working on at the committee level, where the rubber really hits the road, is who should pay for any works that need to be done and manage retreat going into the future. So those are live conversations, and we're having workshops as we go. And as you'll all be aware, this work is looking to be vested with HBRC as a long-term plan amendment after end of next year. All going to plan.
Thank you. Are there any questions? That being the case, could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Brown and Councillor Price, thank you. Any further comments? No? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And so, yes, Andrew, I would
I
like...
do have one more item.
Oh, do we have one more item?
And public excluded.
Oh no, but we want to do a public acknowledgement, not a public exclusion. So yes, as the Deputy Mayor has said, thank you on behalf of all of Council for your very calm and efficient, the way that you have operated in your role since you have been with us. We've very much enjoyed working with you, and we're sad to see you go, but wish you all the very best in your next chapter. And I also, we couldn't go without acknowledging your wonderful outfits that you always turn up on, right down to your socks. Yeah. And we will miss you coming along in your dapper outfits when you present to us at Council. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure working here. I have learnt a huge amount about Council and processes and everything there, just about so many different things. When I first moved to Napier, we kept saying, this city's really nice, isn't it? It's just so well looked after. This council does a great job. And then I ended up getting a job at the council and found that what we'd seen was just the very tip of the iceberg of what the council actually does. So I've learnt a massive amount about that. And I also do have to say that I've been extremely well supported by the rest of the governance team, who are extremely capable. So I know I'm leaving you in very capable hands. And seeing as this was my first time working for local government, they really had to help me along it all the way through. So that's been invaluable. So I've been very lucky. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on to the big one. And item 9 is the adoption of our annual report 2022-23 and summary annual report for the year ended 30 June 2023. We have Caroline and Talia here to present, and we're also joined by Karen Young from Audit New Zealand online to support the presentation of this paper as well. We are just having the summary annual report distributed, as it's only just been finalised this morning, so we'll get copies of that around to you all. Excellent, thank you. And
Thank you.
Changes that are being.
Oh, is this the changes?
And I'm tabling for you a review of the updated full report.
Excellent. So just to amend that, what you've each been handed is the changes, a summary of the changes. I have been given a copy of the updated annual report and summary report. But of course, we will have the team talking to the changes that have been made and the reports in general. So I will pass across to Caroline and Talia.
Thank you very much. So it'll be a bit of a two-person effort here. I'll start off and then Talia will talk to the opinion, and then we've got, as you've said, Karen Young here, our Audit Director, who can also talk to the opinion and answer any other questions that you might have. So for the 22-23 year, Council is reporting a net operating deficit of 7.7 million compared to a budgeted deficit of 243,000. Our operating revenue was ahead of budget by 5.4 million, and that was mainly due to the government grants and the timing of financial contribution revenue. Those favourable variances were partially offset by lower than anticipated revenue from the Parkland section sales, decreased revenue at the tourism sites due to Cyclone Gabriel, and a decrease in the value of Council's investment property. Our operating expenditure was 13.4 million above budget, and that was mainly due to unbudgeted cyclone costs. These key costs related to emergency response of 8.7 million and solid waste costs of 2.5 million. Unfortunately, we've been unable to meet the statutory adoption deadline of 31st of October due to a delay in receiving asset revaluation data as a result of the cyclone. This is noted in our annual report, and the OAG has been advised of this. We're not alone though, as I believe there are about 12 other councils that have also not met their adoption date. The Audit and Risk Committee have reviewed the annual report at their meeting on the 17th of November, and they provided some feedback and some minor changes to the report. Subsequent to the Audit and Risk meeting, there was a last-minute change to the accounts. Audit has recommended that we move the asset impairments that were sitting in other operating expenditure to the revaluation reserve. So that has favourably impacted the P&L by 4.6 million. Talia will take you through that and a number of other changes that have been tabled in front of you, and also talk to our audit opinion. But as you will probably see by the number of changes that we've tabled, the team's been working right up to this morning to get those changes amended and put into our final version of the annual report. I'll hand over to you, Talia.
So we have received a qualified audit opinion on the financial statements and statements of service provision, and we've received an unmodified opinion on the funding impact statements and statements about our capital expenditure. There's also an emphasis of matter regarding uncertainty over the water services reform program, which is standard across the sector. So the first qualification we have relates to the carrying values of the three water assets. This is carried forward from 2022 when we were unable to bring our three-yearly valuation forward. The closing values have been accepted by audit following our revaluation this year. However, the comparatives and opening balances mean we will have a qualification this year and next year as well. The second qualification is also carried over from previous years. So this is where we're unable to provide verifiable information for our three water response time performance measures. We have made significant progress on this, and we hope that for the 2023 and 24 audit, we will be able to verify our results. The annual report summary, which we've provided, the document itself mirrors the full annual report, as does the audit opinion. So I'd now like to bring your attention to the changes in the annual report from the Audit and Risk Committee and the draft that we attached to the agenda. So the first one is a change that we've made to page 9, the CE's message, as requested by the Audit and Risk Committee. The
second one, page 11, is related to the insurance of assets, where we've had to update the numbers there following the revaluation of the infrastructure assets. The further changes through pages 4 and 5 are mostly minor changes where we've been adding the totals that were originally missed off the report. On page 6 of the changes document, it directs you to page 128, the Statement of Comprehensive Revenue and Expenditure, which is where the major change that Caroline pointed out has gone through the accounts. And the following changes mostly relate to that, the flow-through effects in the other statements and the notes from that major change for the impairments. Then on page 8 of the changes document, it directs you to page 158 or 159 of the new version of the annual report. This is the note about the Three Waters revaluation, where we've had to add extra wording to the note to explain the uncertainty on the 2022 numbers. And page 10 and 11 of the changes document. The first one I'd like to point out here is page 194 of the report, which is note 30 on the contingencies. Firstly, we didn't originally have the numbers for the defined benefit plan, so we have updated that. It is a surplus of 322,000 compared to a deficit last year of 595,000. We have also removed the note in there about the agreement with Local Government Mutual Funds Trustee Limited risk pool. That note is now a event after balance date rather than a contingency. So on page 201 of the new report, we have a new disclosure which explains that agreement that was reached with risk pool. And finally, in the report, we will be updating the audit opinion, and that will be signed after the report itself is adopted. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both very much. Before I move to questions, Karen, I'll just pass to you to give you an opportunity if there's anything that you would like to provide some input on.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to take questions. There isn't anything additional that I'd like to say at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So a question from myself, Karen, just with regards to this change with the asset impairments expense being transferred to the balance sheet, and
yes,
look, admittedly it's improved the position, but I'm just wondering why this has happened so late in the piece. Why is this not something, why has it been identified so late?
The reason is it was during our audit of the Three Waters that we identified that, and of course the Three Waters valuation report was received later. So when an asset is revalued, any impairment goes against the revaluation reserve. So when assets are held, that compares to when an asset is held at cost. Any impairment goes straight to the bottom line, the P&L. So we had to look at the revaluation report, talk to the valuers, and then join the dots in terms of what the council had done with that impairment expense.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes, sorry, I just want to add also, sometimes valuers exclude consideration of impairment as part of their revaluation. So until we see the report and audit the report and talk to the valuers to get clarification on the approach they took, we can't, complete our work in that area.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right, I'll open up to questions from councillors. I guess just to make the comment that, as already stated, this went to the Audit and Risk Committee last week, and that committee has put forward a recommendation to obviously adopt the report and move forward. And I appreciate there may not have been time to share the amended report with the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee as yet.
You're correct. You're
Yeah,
right.
so I know we will do that as soon as we have the time to do that. But certainly at the meeting last week, our independent chair Bruce Robertson was very comfortable and happy to adopt the report. So just to provide that feedback to councillors. Councillor Price.
Just the question is, PGA on your balance sheet?
As in the asset itself, no.
We don't own it. We don't own it. It's owned by the trust. We gave them money towards it,
Yeah.
but we don't own the asset.
Interesting.
Did I see your hand up, Councillor McGrath?
You did. That's through the chair, really major stuff here. Page 57, in the one that we have presented in front of us, there's just a typo with the bores, I think. I think we've got A3 and A3 bores. Maybe it needs to be A2 and A3. Big stuff.
All right.
A lot of water under the bridge.
Attention to detail. I like it.
It's my experience on the Audit and Risk Committee.
Any further questions from councillors or any general discussion? No. Okay. So in that case, I'm happy to move from the chair. If I could have a seconder, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. So first and foremost, I do just want to say thank you to the team. I know you've been working tirelessly on this. So, and we do fully understand that we've got the historical issues that have led to the unqualified audit or the qualified audit opinion, and we know that we're on the right trajectory in terms of resolving those, so that's really great. But just wanting to also acknowledge the overall performance of the organisation in light of the challenges that we've had during this financial year with Cyclone Gabrielle. It was never going to be an easy year in any regard, and that includes our financial management, because we did have significant additional costs associated with both the initial response and the ongoing recovery around the cyclone. So in that light, I actually think that we all need to pat ourselves on the back that we have managed to, come through with the result that we have come through with. It could have been, I think, significantly worse than that. So we are in a very, very strong financial position as a council. We would have to, I say, have probably one of the strongest balance sheets out of any council in the country, and that has come about through many, many years of very sound financial management. And it does set us up well going forward in light of the cyclone and the other challenges that we've had in recent years with COVID and, of course, our 2020 flood. So we're working on our 2024 long-term plan at the moment, and it's fair to say that the challenges continue in terms of how councils, not just our councils, but councils throughout the whole country, can move forward in a financially sustainable way. Our costs continue to escalate across all areas of council services and activities. So we will be coming out to the community early next year to present our draft long-term plan and seek feedback and that all-important input that we really, really do require from our community. So we're looking forward to doing that. But it is good to have 2023 in front of us to be able to adopt this formally. And that does mean, of course, that we can now focus our energies on looking to the future and what we're going to do for our community from 2024 and beyond. So thank you very much. And Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think you've summed it up really well. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, it might be a little bit late. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, but we are, when we pass this or vote on this resolution, we are voting for the independent auditor's report, and I see that the audit report will be updated with the final opinion, and I just wondered if Karen could assure us that this new, with the changes, have met the requirements before we vote on it.
Yes. So the audit opinion is the same as that was provided at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. So the opinion hasn't changed. We've just been able to complete our work, particularly in the Three Waters area. That was the main bit of work which we've now dotted I's, crossed T's on.
Oh, thank you. I can add a little bit to that. So the only, when we say changes, it's just the page numbers that are referred to in the audit opinion and the fact that it needs to be signed as well. So that's what we mean by changes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Caroline. Did any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Right, therefore I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Caroline and Talia. And to your whole team, if you could pass on our thanks for this work.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Karen,
everyone.
as well. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us today.
You're welcome. And thanks everyone for the cooperation we have received during the audit. There's been excellent engagement, and we were able to work very effectively with council on the audit. So my big thanks to everyone involved, in which has been a very challenging year for everyone. So yeah, big pat on the back. In fact, there has been 22 councils for various reasons that missed the statutory deadline. No, your reason was completely understandable. There were definitely challenges caused by the cyclone, which resulted in the revaluation having to be completed later than it was.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. You're okay.
Right.
So moving on to our final open agenda item before we move on to our specialist committee reports, and that's tenders let. There are 2 tenders let for the period 2nd of October to 10th of November, the Miani and Awatoto water main contract and the wastewater treatment plant contract. Were there any questions on this? Councillor Price.
On the second one, the wastewater treatment plant, is that a full partial or completion of what we talked about? Because we were talking about it would have storage for 23 to 24 hours. I was wondering if it's a phase or it's the whole job.
We'll make a note of that to follow that up with Russell and team. Thank you. Any further questions? Have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Price, Councillor McGrath. Any comments? No. We'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Then on to our reports and recommendations from the Audit and Risk Committee held 17th of November. Again, just the one agenda item for that meeting, which was the adoption of the annual report. I did give a brief update in the previous agenda item, but certainly, as I stated, the recommendation from the Audit and Risk Committee was to receive the report and move forward with the adoption. Were there any questions? Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Craig, Councillor Mawson, thank you. Any comments? No. So we'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And so that brings us to our recommendation to exclude the public. A mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Mawson, Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we will just take a 5-minute break